status for mountain lions, method of take to include incidentally trapped animals. Chief Game Warden Rob Buonamici and Chief of Game Larry Gilbertson. Informational.
For the record, Larry Gilbertson, Department of Wildlife.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
You're
for my part, I'll do it rather quickly. I just provided the update. My staff looked up. You guys asked what the status of mountain lions were in the western states, and so I presented those. I believe everybody has a handout, and it shows what they're classified as in other states. And they're big game almost everywhere except in California, where they're specially protected mammals and called trophies in Wyoming. And then Texas is the one state that calls them non-game. And then we also provided the seasons that the other states have, and so we can compare that. So really that's all I provided for this.
Okay. Mr. Buonamici, we had a bunch of items here.
Okay, for the record, Rob Buonamici, Chief Game Warden. The first cover sheet you had, I tried to summarize, give you just a kind of overview. The options, in the options column for mountain lion classification options, you have the option of moving a mountain lion from big game mammal to unprotected. And then the other option would be to move mountain lion from a big game mammal to a fur bearer, or you could leave everything as is, or you could leave it as a big game mammal and allow the trapping of it, or you could change it from a big game mammal to a predator. So those are the legal options available to the commission. So that's just the broad overview. And then in the column next to it to the right is a list of legal issues. It's not totally inclusive. We may have missed some, especially when it comes to making it unprotected, because you have to go through the NRSs and NACs, and everywhere you find the word mountain lion, we pretty much have to extract it from that language. So anyway, that's the broad overview. And then getting a little more into detail, the first page you have is the option of going unprotected classification. That would require legislation because mountain lion appears throughout Title 45 and various statutes, and it would require changes to regulation as it appears throughout regulation in several places. And those references pertain to it as a big game mammal right now. And then you would have to also amend NAC 503035, which classifies animals as unprotected mammals, and insert mountain lion into that regulation. So that's one option available. The other option available is changing a mountain lion to a fur bearer classification. That would require legislative action. NRS 501035, fur-bearing mammal means any mammal so classified by the commission. And where you would require legislative action is in specifically NRS 501376, Section 1. You'll see it says, except as otherwise provided in this section, a person shall not intentionally kill or aid or abet another person killing bighorn sheep, mountain goat, elk, deer, pronghorn antelope, mountain lion, or black bear. So you'd have to amend that to remove it there. And then a tag would still need to be required, well, potentially still need to be required if you change the classification to a fur bearer. So that would have to be addressed as well. And then NRS 503150, manner of hunting game birds or mammals. In there under G, 1G, any big game mammal except mountain lion with a dog of any breed, that's referencing how you can hunt them. You'd have to remove that. So there's regulatory issues. NAC 502020, big game mammal defined. Obviously, you'd have to remove mountain lion from that if you're going to change it to a fur bearer. And NAC 502370, mountain lions, tag is required to hunt a mountain lion. Would you want to continue with the tag, not continue with the tag? So that addresses some of the major issues. NAC 503142, person may hunt deer and mountain lion with a shotgun no larger than 10 gauge. If you change the classification to fur bearer, you'd probably want to look at amending that as well. So that addresses some of the issues with changing the classification to a fur bearer. And these are all doable. It's just what extent and where the commission wants to go. And then a lion, keeping a mountain lion as a big game mammal and allowing the trap it as a method of take. That would require a change to NRS 503150, NRS 504295, because that addresses possess or release from confinement any mammal for the purpose of hunting. 501376, again, that's the felony provision. And then the tag issue again in NRS 502250, if that's an issue. And 503454, trapping license required. Every person who takes fur-bearing mammals by any legal method or unprotected mammals by trapping. So we'd have an issue there. We'd have to address the license requirement. You'd need a trapping license for mountain lion then to take them in a trap. And NAC 502370, a tag is required to hunt mountain lion. Again, do we or do we not want tags for mountain lions? And that same NAC section 5, if a mountain lion is accidentally trapped or killed. So obviously if we're going to allow the trapping of mountain lions, we have to remove that. So those are legal issues with that. And then the big game mammal to a predator, if we want to change it to a predator. Currently, there is no predator classification in statute. So we'd have to go and change statute with regards to that. Right now, NRS 501.110 For the purposes of this title, wildlife must be classified as follows. Wild mammals, which must be further classified as either game mammals, fur-bearing mammals, protected mammals, or unprotected. So those are the only options available to us. So we can't go label something from a legal perspective a predator. And then there's, again, the tag issue, method of hunting, and so forth if it's changed to a predator. So in a nutshell, that's the options available to this commission.
Just throwing out here to the commission is basically we're going to have another item here where we can discuss, create, or give instruction staff about this particular item. So I don't know we need to throw out a lot at this juncture. So go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was one that asked this item be placed on the agenda. And first of all, I'd like to thank the department and congratulate. This is the most thorough examination of our records relative to how we classify lions and what areas of the law and regulation would have to be changed. I had done some personal work myself on board, and the more you looked at it, there are more legislative issues than I think we want to address in this coming session. So from a legislative standpoint, I'm not sure that I want to go off the reservation on that. There may be some things that we can do less than that, but I believe that, we would be biting off a little more than we want to chew to go forward with the idea of changing it. The fur-bearing one I don't like at all, but the other one, even whatever option that we take would be massive changes to both the law and to regulations. So from that perspective, unless somebody has any heartburn over it, I'd like to withdraw the item.
Well, it's this is an informational item. Let's just go with the information, say thank you. We'll go on 16, then we can discuss it. There'll be a time for motion, all that. Okay? So thank you for the review. And then we'll move on to 16, and we'll have, first item here will be the public comment. Commission may discuss, create, or give instruction to staff to draft regulatory changes to include status and method of take of mountain lions. So go ahead. Let's see. We have Bruce Swanson. If you want to go ahead and call off the list.
You're going to call us up, or you're going to just have us walk up, sir? All right, sir.
Bruce left. He couldn't stay here long.
The next one we have is Stacy Newman.
Mr. Chair, I'm not Stacia Newman. However, I just would like to make a comment for her since she also had to leave. She just wanted you to know that the Nevada Political Action for Animals has many concerned citizens that contacted them regarding the issue before the commission today, and they wanted to let you know that they're very opposed to any changes that would be made in terms of the way the mountain lions are currently stated in the state statute at this time.
Excellent. And were you also on the list, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you like? I'm Karen Lane.
Karen Lane, you had a card out.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and Commissioners, I appreciate you allowing me to speak today. I know this is not, I'm the president of the Las Vegas Valley Humane Society. I'm sure that I'm not a typical person that comes before you. I have to tell you, I feel like I've taken about 4 or 5 steps back in time. It's not often that I speak to an all-male commission anymore either. So I just want to say to you that
Oh, yeah.
I did want to, I was glad to see I will say I was very glad to see the female enforcement officer. Seriously though, I would like to point out that I really wanted to understand the commission and what its aim is or what its purpose is. And I understand that it's charged with responsibility of managing the public's wildlife resources for preservation, protection, management, and restoration. And what I've heard today, it's been very interesting. I have to say that I wasn't that familiar with the commission. Now I am, and I think you're probably going to be seeing a lot more of the, some of the animal groups appearing in front of you, so that we also have the option to get our viewpoint out and let you know what some of the other public in Nevada has to say about some of these issues. I'm a little concerned, though, and I just wanted to point out this issue was very disconcerting to us that it was brought up. We're already looking at the trapping issue in southern Nevada. We're trying to figure out how to deal with that because we're having so many problems with dogs being trapped right now. But that's beside the point. I think the thing that concerns me is the idea that predators are your #1 mission. And I understand from Commissioner Lint, though, and I think this is really, I'm very glad to hear this, that you are science-based, that this is a science-based commission. So I think since I'm a former professor, and sometimes I don't talk about that very often, it's good to hear that you're looking at the literature that's already out there, and I hope that you will do that in terms of the way you manage mountain lions, and certainly I'll be back tomorrow when we talk about the black bears, and I'm more than happy to sit through the session again. As I say, I found this very interesting. But I think the thing that concerns me, and in looking at the literature, it does say the notion that predators alone control prey species numbers is unsupported in scientific literature. So that gives me cause, and I think one of the things that they talk about and that we're seeing so much here has to do with the environment that's occurring, and a number of other factors, such as we're seeing pneumonia, I guess, in some of the herds that we find. So I just want to say to you that when you do make these considerations, know that we are concerned about some of these issues. We certainly do appreciate the hunters and agriculture because we understand that it's your fees that are paying to make sure that these animals are out there. But just like looking at it from a standpoint of agriculture, I hope that my children and my children's children will also be able to see the mountain lion and the black bear, that these animals will still be out there in addition to the elk and the sheep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don Mulvey?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Welcome back, Don.
Thank you. To echo the last speaker, I thought I was sitting at a meeting in the 1950s listening to most of this discussion today. It's been quite remarkable. I did properly put together a nasty letter opposing this ridiculous idea, which I'll leave here. But on a positive note, I think Commissioner Camperos put his finger on an important item, which is this looks like a more controversial issue than it may have appeared in the beginning. And I would also point out that should the lion be placed in some unprotected status, that you would essentially be doing away with your mountain lion management program, which you spent a lot of time and money and effort on for, what, 20, 30 years now? While it has some limitations, in my view, which the Commission have imposed upon it, like year-round season, no protection for females, things of that sort. It does collect data, which is useful in your business, and it also distributes hunting pressure, which clearly has an advantage for a large apex predator, which exists in relatively few numbers in this state. And since you don't know how many mountain lions there are anyway, some degree of conservation and some reasonableness in terms of how you approach this issue is called for. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Don.
George Corner? Ready? George Corner, I called.
For the record, Paul Harris.
George Corner.
George Corner.
George's turn.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No smirking, huh?
Followed by, who you got next? Walter.
Walter
Mann.
Mandeville next.
Thank you.
George Corner, representing Nevada Outfitters and Guides Association. We have been adamantly opposed to any change in the status of the mountain lion, and we remain so. Our membership was polled again, and nobody came back favoring changing the status. And for all the reasons that we've enumerated numerous times, we have a very good program in place that has alleviated any effort by protectionist groups to come in and try to petition to get the mountain lion hunting removed completely, and we want to keep it that way. Thank you much.
Walter Mandeville. Followed by Tom Castanelli.
Yeah, for the record, Walter Mandeville, Lyon County Board to Manage Wildlife. Our board voted to maintain the lion status as is, and I could give you just a small little history thumbnail. I can remember back in the late 60s, 1970, someone killed a mountain lion just out of Reno, and there was a huge public outcry over that. That was when the lion was unprotected. And I'll tell you, you wouldn't believe the opposition. So that is the beginning of the protection of the mountain lion, and it became fully protected, no hunting, no anything. And the lion is a pretty durable animal, but it's just like she said, it would be nice to have them as part of our wildlife. Like I said before, Department of Wildlife manages all wildlife, and there's a balancing act that goes on. I've heard some horror stories about canned lion hunts. I don't know if you guys have heard of those, where they trap and catch these lions and sandpaper their pads so they can't run real well, and the hounds can follow them, and they charge people to hunt them. And I think that if you change the status of this animal, we could lose the opportunity to manage this animal very easily. All you have to do is look at our neighbor to the west. They have some serious lion problems, and they don't know how to deal with it. Anyhow, that's our recommendation. Thank you for your time.
Tom Castanelli, pass. Next one would be Paul Dixon, followed by Dennis Wilson.
For the record, Paul Dixon. I'd just like to poll the people sitting on the commission and the audience.
This public
here.
comment, not polling. You can make public comment.
Well, I can make public comment. I'm just going to make a statement that I would assume that most of everybody sitting here has a mountain lion tag who's bought a license. And based on the results from systems consultants at the Fallon meeting, that's about 2,600 people a year. Correct. And my point there is we have line hunting 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, and we're bringing in 2,500 plus tags sold at $25 a piece. That's a lot of revenue, and it's a lot of people that have an interest. And right now we're managing, collecting statistics, and trying to learn. I mean, one of the questions Don Moldy asked is, how many mountain lions do we have? They're a secretive, elusive animal. They're hard to follow. But we're gaining and garnering a lot of statistics, even from the picture that Chairman Raine showed early on, where we had 3 mountain lions drinking out of a guzzler or spring. We're getting information and we're learning it. But going unprotected, I agree with the last speaker, is a huge mistake because we lose the ability to manage and control our destiny. The last thing I would say to this commission is that probably for the first time, you saw a very nice lady from here from the Humane Society came, or was it SBC? Las Vegas Valley come in and speak. You've never seen her at one of your commission meetings before, but I guarantee you'll see her and a lot of her colleagues coming in the future. You've opened a door to another group of people trying to understand what you're doing, and the defense that you have to have now in the decisions you make, I believe, is going to have to be even stronger than it was before people like her stepped into this room. And I think you've opened a dangerous path, even if you say you don't want to proceed with this right now. And the other thing is, and I'll end with this, is that since mountain lions were made a game animal, The legislature's changed, and so is the makeup of the state, probably by 750,000 people. In our legislature now, I bet you if you polled them, I would say a majority are probably pro-mountain lion and anti-mountain lion hunting, if you looked at that. And I would think that that would be another dangerous reason to take this in front of the legislature and try to make rule changes. Thank you.
Dennis Wilson.
For the record, Dennis Wilson, representing Nevada Bighorns Unlimited. Mr. Chairman, Commission, thank you for allowing me to speak on this issue. No reason to reiterate what's already been spoken. Nevada Bighorns Unlimited is strongly in favor of leaving the mountain lion as classified as a big game mammal for all the reasons that have previously been elucidated. Thank you.
I think that's all the cards we had. Okay. Did you fill out a card?
No, I didn't fill out a card.
Can you
but
fill?
I would like to speak.
Okay, can you
I'll be
fill
happy
one
to
out?
fill it out. Can I speak first?
Go ahead and speak, but would you fill out a card as soon as you're done?
My name is John Hyatt, Conservation Chair of Red Rock Audubon here in Las Vegas. Mountain lions are keystone predator, keystone species, and there's only one reason that I can think of that you might want to change this to unprotected, and that is to try and reduce the numbers significantly. I think that would be a very significant mistake. There was a lot of reasons not to do that. Aldo Leopold, the father of game management in this country, certainly recognized the important role of predators in ecosystems, and I think that we need to pay attention to the information that we've learned in the last 100 years, and I think the idea that we will declare it unprotected and hope that a lot of people step forward and kill mountain lions just for the simple sake of reducing their numbers would be a very serious error. And so I think just leaving the status as is a managed game animal is the wisest thing to do. Thank you.
I think there's cards available outside there. Is there anybody else didn't have a card? Okay. Thank you.
For the record, Paul Harris, Clark County Cab.
Did you have a card?
It's right there. Can everybody hear me? Okay, because I'm confused that we keep going through this. Everybody in this room behind me feels the same way. Leave it alone. Don't mess with it. We don't want to be like our neighbor state, California. Commissioner Raines, we just want to leave it alone. $145,000 is what we made on mountain lion tags this year. I don't think we're in a position to throw $145,000 out the window on a state that's hurting this bad. It's crazy to do this. Leave it alone.
Anybody else didn't state on your card? Seeing none, close public hearing on this matter. Bring it back to the commission. First, I wanted to throw up just a brief comment. You know, the commission seems to be getting a lot of bad press that's, in my opinion, quite undeserved. By no means, in my observation, has this commission or the previous commission, or the commissioners, totally one species or predation totally oriented. It is a small aspect, and I think it's been repeated many times. It's a very small aspect of wildlife management. However, it is an aspect, and it's something that needs to be taken care of. This item was brought up here so we can talk about the possibilities. Commissioners asked to bring it up, we'll bring it up. This kind of narrowed down the focus on here. You know, the changing of a big game animal to mammal to predator, was there any of the commissioners even want to talk about that? I mean, I don't even need to talk about creating a new predation predator category. So I just ask if we can kind of, for the purpose of limiting limiting our discussion, I don't even see why that one's necessary. No? Well, I mean, they could talk about it if they want to, but for the sake of expedition, I don't see any purpose in talking about it personally. It's here, but we got all the options there are. You know, the one of any of these that I think that requires maybe a little bit more discussion, and I'd like to go over some of the points on, would be the leave as a big game mammal and allow trapping. And I'd just like to kind of run over a couple of the NRS points. But you know, not allow trapping. We're talking allowing incidental trapping. I believe that's how the wording that I was initially heard on that. And I'd like to go over a few of those NRS possible changes on that one. If there is an incidental trapping issue, let's go over that. Support material was very good, by the way, on this. Mr. Buonamici, be highly commended on that. Threw out some good points. The NRS changes here, 503.150. That might have to be changed, except for the fact, and I would like to ask Mr. Stockton on this, it says, first line is, unless otherwise specified by the commission regulation. Okay. NRS 503.150, where it states, over here, except as otherwise specified by commission regulation. By that being the first line, it could be changed by commission regulation and not an NRS. Would that be correct? Just throwing that out there as possibilities, see what the law is. And then we'll just go through each one of these, and then if anybody has questions, comments, or whatever. Just want to throw that out there as a possibility. Possibility.
Certainly looks like the, I mean, the legislatures give the commission authority to write regulations concerning the manner of take. I'd have to look it up because there's rules on how far from the legislative language you can go with a regulation, even under that kind of authority. But I don't know what the line is, and I don't know where.
Not clearly necessary to go to the legislature, maybe.
Maybe.
Okay.
If I may.
Okay.
Just to give you our reasoning behind it. Yeah. The reason we felt the commission didn't have authority on that, unless otherwise specified by commission regulation, it is unlawful to hunt. It's specific to hunt as opposed to trapping.
Go ahead.
Rob, do you happen to have, I see you got your book there with you, do you happen to have the exact date that the status of mountain lion was changed to big game mammal? Do you happen to know when that happened, what year that was?
Give me a minute, I'll see if I can find it.
Just as I was leaving the house today, I got a phone call. And it was from an old guy that I've known a long time. And he seems to think that that was never actually legally done. And I mentioned that to the AG, that it was never legally changed to a big game mammal.
I think we're ready. Okay. Mr. Lent says he might be able to answer that.
I can probably answer that. I think that the meeting when it was changed was called an illegal meeting by the Attorney General. And I had that information. I don't have it here, but the Attorney General ruled it wasn't on the agenda properly, and so it was an illegal vote. So, and I don't think it ever came back for a vote. So that was the, and I had the information on that, but I don't have it right with me yet.
It was 1965 that it was made a game mammal. It's in your support material too.
There was a deputy attorney general by the name of Peter Breen that made the decision. But yeah, it stated that it was, what you mean there about, it violated the open meeting law, basically. But I don't know that we have any, since then, many changes have been made. I don't know, Mr. Stockton, can you tell us what we need to know about that?
No, I mean, I'd have to research it and figure, you know.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I'm not going to have an opinion either way on that. I apologize.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Shouldn't we just table this then, if there's a cloud?
Let's see, Mr. Vogler?
I think we need to discuss this to a little more degree than, we are supposedly in charge of all the hunting animals, and so we are supposed to be balancing one against the other to a certain degree. That would be within our purview. Having spent the last 26 years in the field, I've seen very few lions without dogs chasing them down for the purpose because they've predated on domestic livestock. But there are some things that go on out there that make the situation a heck of a lot worse that maybe we should discuss and try and come up with some resolution we can all live with. And that may not be making a predator animal out of it or reclassifying anything, but some direction. We need some direction because, first of all, people, oh, and by the way, the guy that was talking about sandpaper in the bottom of their feet so they're easier to catch, no. Shoot them in the paw with the .22 and they won't jump tree. They'll just sit there until you can go find your dude.
Thank you.
No, wait a minute. I just.
There's laws against that, I believe.
I realize there's laws against that, and I'm sure there would also be laws against sanding their feet. But a trapper that catches one of these things in a leg hold trap that he's trying to catch for a coyote and a lion gets in it, this becomes a very dangerous animal to try and release, for one thing. And second, if his paw is damaged, this thing really becomes a killing machine, and it becomes twice as predator prone or whatever. I mean, it starts taking animals that it ordinarily wouldn't because now it's crippled. These are things that I think we should address. We also have certain areas that nobody wants to hunt. Down here in the south, like the Delamar region, nobody wants to spend much time with their dogs because of the heat. They lose their dogs. They have all kinds of problems down here. Maybe there's some way we can address catching these by other methods in certain areas. I don't know. But Mount Moriah, nobody hunts Mount Moriah because it's very rugged. We've augmented the bighorn sheep herd up there 3 times that I know of. And the lions, something is certainly controlling them. There's no domestic sheep to blame it on. But yet there was only 11 lambs up there this year. Out of 41 ewes, that is going to be, there's a serious situation. There's maybe 2 of those that'll live to reproduce. So you have a declining herd, probably based on lion predation. We're supposed to be protecting the wild sheep also. It's just, we find females that somebody has shot their tails off. So nobody wants to take the female because the lion mount without a tail isn't much. But yet they exist out there, and once they've had that done to them, you can't tree them again. I mean, there's just all kinds of things, issues that we need to address to protect some of the prey base that we're also in charge of. And I don't know if there's some way we can tweak this a little bit to where it allows, if you accidentally catch one in a leg hold trap for a coyote, that you don't have to let it go and make it a cripple, that makes it even a more dangerous predator. Those are the things that I would like to address. And leaving it as a game animal is fine with me, but it becomes a pretty much a different animal in many instances. And so where we should be protecting big game herds of wild sheep in certain areas, we're not getting any trapping there. Or down here, maybe on the Nelson Desert Bighorns, we're not getting as much trapping or removal as we could, or balancing of nature. I just think that's an issue we should address. Maybe that should be on an agenda and drop this wording that we've got here now, but I think we got to address it.
Okay, let me go back to where we're at. I was trying to go down these NRSs here on, be the 4th option here. We've just established 501.150 does not talk about trapping. It's only about hunting. Good. We happen to be talking about trapping. So 504.295, unless is otherwise specified by a regulation adopted by the Commission. So it could be specified otherwise in regulation. 501.376. That is specifically about, let's see, let's go over that. What was the problem with that one on unlawful killing, possession of a mountain lion? Not if you had a tag. You'd have to have a tag, right? To cover the 376. Okay, that'd be covered. 503.454, you would not need to add mountain lion because what was being referred to was an incidental trapping. Incidental, as opposed to anything else. You would not be necessarily hunting for them if it was incidental trapping. Then the NAC, that could be changed. Therefore, that option would not, at least there's a possibility that that option of leaving them as a big game ant mammal and allowing incidental trapping of them, allowing harvest of an incidentally trapped animal might very well be possible without change to NRS. Because 105 not talking about trapping, we're talking about trapping. 502 says otherwise, unless otherwise specified by commission. Right? We need a trap, so 376 is good. We wouldn't need change NRS. Or at least there's a possibility you would not. I mean, I make that great assertion, and that's why Raine gets paid the big bucks. We don't need an answer on that today, but there's a possibility, perhaps. So I'm just trying to throw it out there as a possibility. However, it does look like if we wanted to change it to fur bearer, you'd have to change NRS. If you wanted to change it to unprotected, you'd have to change NRS and probably in more than one location, at least two. It says 3 or 4 here, but at least 2, I would think. I'm just throwing those out there as what I see. Let's go down at the end. Anything? Okay, Mr. Calvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd be a proponent of keeping the regulatory procedures under the purview of this commission, not doing anything that we had to go to the legislature for. So that'd be my main concern. And the other thing that I think we can do under the existing system that we're probably not doing right now is, and we did allow the mountain lion tag sale, and we've done well at that, but we're still way below what our scientific quota is. And I think we can probably do some things to try and move that quota closer to the scientific basis of sustaining the population without having issues with, deleting the population or eliminating the population. So I think we should work in some of those areas as well. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Lent, we'll move on down.
I just have a question with the director. If we get incidental trapping now, what do we do?
Our process is that the trapper calls us, the warden either tells the trapper to go ahead and release the lion. If they can't or don't feel comfortable with that, the warden does go out and actually assist in it. Maybe Rob wants to comment more on that, but we haven't had any issues, quite frankly. I'm sure that things happen that we don't know about, obviously, but we do have a process, and it's not write a citation to the trapper that, incidentally, by accident, traps a lion. And by the way, they're leg hold traps, not leg cripple traps. So, the intent there is not to cripple a lion either. So, Rob, I don't know if I accurately described what our policy is, but.
You ever release a lion from a trap?
Yeah.
Good luck.
I think we have some trappers in the back row that can tell you how to do it. Right?
Director Mayer's correct, and I've personally gone out and released lions from traps. Tranquilize them first is my preferred method.
You tranquilize you or the lion?
The lion.
All right.
So we have we get multiple calls, and I'm going to say probably half a dozen a year, statewide, from trappers asking us, hey, I caught this lion. I ain't messing with it. Can you come help, or what do you want me to do with it? And we'll send a game warden out and usually tranquilize it and release it. So it's a common practice. We have yet to cite a trapper when they calls us and, says, hey, I trapped this lion accidentally, so forth. We have had circumstances where we have cited individuals that have tried checking in lions to our office, and we determined they've been trapped and they were shot in the trap, and we've determined that through search warrants and seized videos, and we got some god-awful videos. So.
Mr. Vogler?
Bob, if you went out on to release one of these lions and it was in the cold of winter and things like that, even though they're leg hold, but there's lots of times the lions are not very trap friendly. They do tend to spin around, and if they did get the circulation cut off, and if that lion was injured, would you have the discretion to permanently take it out, or do you have to turn a crippled lion loose knowing full well what he's going to start doing?
No, if it was injured lion that was, we're unable to realistically, rehabilitate or anything like that, we're going to put it down.
Thank you.
All right, questions down here, Mr. Howell and Mr. Macbeth. I don't know if
Rob,
you hand up or not.
Of all these options, seems like the least offensive would be on say a trapper incidentally trapped a lion, and the trapper had a tag and made his phone call to you and said, I got a lion in a trap, I have a tag, can I take the lion out? And wouldn't that be the least offensive of all the options?
Yeah, we would have to, I left my paperwork up at my chair there, but we'd have to change, I believe it's a NAC, which is doable, that addresses method. And I think the NRS, was it the NRS that stated it's basically unlawful to kill a trapped an animal released from a trap? I'd have to double check that.
It wouldn't be.
It is NRS, so that would require an NRS change to legally tell a trapper, shoot it in the trap or go ahead and release it and shoot it.
Was that another NRS here that wasn't listed here, or is that a separate one? Which one was that?
Your paperwork, Rob?
Yeah, you want to tell me which one it was?
It's NRS 504295.
Now, it states there that unless otherwise specified by regulation adopted by the commission.
Correct.
So we could adopt, conceivably, you could adopt regulation and cover that. Just trying to throw out possibilities here.
Yeah, that is a potential.
Okay. Let's see, Mr. Macbeth, you had something, and we'll move down these gentlemen and see if we can move on to the next item.
I sit here and I find this discussion incredible. And now that Chief Buonamici has indicated to me that, and to us, that there's only 6 incidents a year, I find
quote me on that.
Okay.
Approximate.
Well, can't be a lot. We are kicking the sleeping dog. I just cannot believe that we're having this discussion. Why we want to do this, why we want to raise this issue and have this discussion and start messing with this is beyond me. It can only result in something that is going to be negative for what we stand for. And incidental take is immaterial, and it is clearly immaterial, and why for 6 lions or even twice that many per year would we even consider the negative consider this given the potential negative implications that would be brought upon us. I just do not understand this. I really don't. I struggle with it very, very deeply, and I don't know why we're even having this discussion.
All right, anybody else down here? Do we have anything? Okay, Mr. Capro.
We're having the discussion because it was requested on the, just as you have your issues you want to have discussed. And this issue hasn't been discussed for quite some time. What I requested was some review and research relative to the issue of mountain lions and their classification. A lot of the discussion that we've had so far has been way off the mark from what was originally asked for, and I appreciated the research that was done by the department. The fact of the matter is that you can't ignore predators, and you can't ignore their interaction with animals in the state of Nevada. We're all trying to get, a balance here in that, and how we achieve that requires that we review current law to see exactly how we're treating it. Now, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that even though, and I'm one of them that buys 2 tags a year, just like a lot of other hunters, and it was mentioned here, and that I've seen 4 lions in my lifetime, which is 4 more than I'll bet several people in this audience have seen, because they are an elusive animal. And the fact of the matter is they do exist, and they do some pretty good damage to our ungulate herds, and thank God we haven't had some of the problems that they've had in California with people being killed by these animals, and that they are dangerous animals. I was looking to see exactly how they could be treated if they were to be treated in some other fashion than they currently are. When you sell 2,500 tags and you get, what's the take? I don't remember for sure, about 250 a year. Is it that much, Rob?
No,
less than that, right?
One something.
The average of the last 10 years has been 188 according to Mr. Mulvey.
Okay, close to 200 a year out of 2,500 tags. That tells you that they're not easy to get to and hunt and to be successful with. So you're not going to solve a predator problem with an animal that you buy tags on and tell the average Joe to go out and hunt. The only effective way is to hunt them with dogs, primarily in the wintertime because of being able to follow the scent and the tracks and this sort of thing. And there are darn few people that I know of that are willing to do that and expose their animals to, the dangers of treeing an animal or not. I want to meet the guy that's going to pad some mountain lions or sand some mountain lions' foot pads, and that he's either a lot dumber than I think he is, or he just doesn't know better. But the simple fact of the matter is we've had the discussion. We've had the research, which again I thought was excellent. There are a number of NGOs that have not been mentioned that have sent in letters which I thought had some excellent points to them relative to keeping it as it is now. I don't happen to think that opening the issue was a wrong thing to do. I'm glad that the ASPCA or whoever it is that is sitting up there came today. We receive about 2.2% of our revenue from the general fund. All of the rest of the fees, all of the rest of the revenues comes directly from sportsmen. That 2.2% of the fees are spent on biodiversity issues, which are not particularly sportsman related. And in fact, I'm sure we spend more than we actually show on those issues, which again are not sportsman related issues, but the general funds that we receive only covered that amount. So I would like to see these people that are very interested in some of these issues come to the table with money so that there can be additional research done, additional methods of managing wild animals, whether they be predators or ungulates or the like. But I don't think it's helpful to get angry in your testimony before this body when we've simply asked the question, how should they be treated, whether it's mountain lions or any other species. And I don't think it's particularly helpful to offer your advice if you aren't putting skin in the game. But with that, I would say to you, Mr. Chairman, there may be some issues that could be handled, such as, and I think it is important to figure out something to do with respect to animals that have been trapped that you really don't want to release because they have damage done and they're not able to perform as they would under ordinary circumstances, some way to allow the trapper to dispatch those. I think that could be handled in a separate issue. So what I am indicating to you is that after all this discussion, that since I asked that this item be put on the agenda, that it be either tabled or postponed to a discussion in the future.
You got a motion on that?
That is a motion.
It is to table it?
To table it.
Second.
Okay, it's been probably moved and seconded to table item number 16, future meeting. All in favor? Aye. Aye for the record. Let's see, move on to number 17.